Hello and welcome to the worst ever podcast. That's what this is called.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. And it's not the worst podcast ever, but it's close.
You got to clarify.
It's in reference to the awful movies that we are going to talk about on this here podcast. And this right here is we're kicking it off with Josh Delaronde.
That's me.
My good friend Josh Delaronde.
I'm Josh Delaronde.
Josh, what is the worst movie you've ever seen?
Well, there's a lot of movies that I've seen that are really bad, but the one we're going to talk about today is Venom.
Yeah.
Recently released 2018, I believe, right? Yes.
Yeah, it was 2018.
November or something like that. No.
Yeah.
Earlier?
No.
Oh, it was earlier. Yeah, it was earlier.
It was October.
Yeah.
Briefly explain the plot of Venom for us, Josh.
So basically, it's about this alien that a bunch of aliens crash into Earth and they take over. They need hosts to unlock their full potential.
They're symbiotes.
Yeah, and this evil corporation called Life wants to. They're so evil. They're using human testing to solve this, to figure out and unlock the secret ability of these symbiotes. And Eddie, a reporter, gets attached to one of them called Venom, and hilarity ensues. They go on a fun adventure and become friends, and
eventually save the world.
And eventually save the world from themselves, basically, because the symbiotes were gonna come back to Earth once they realized that there was so much food there because they eat humans, and they were going to come and kill them all.
Yeah, and that's what we're going to talk about. And it was a awful, awful movie.
Oh, it's just so bad.
And it was the thing with it was produced by such a big company, you know, like it wasn't, you always hear about like The Room, or like these other really, really bad movies that were like just made by like independent filmmakers that were just like, I want to make a movie, and like they didn't have a budget, they'd never made a movie before, like all this stuff. But like Venom is a big budget Sony production.
Well, Sony, you know, they have a great track record. Never made a terrible movie in their lives.
Don't even. Okay, so Sony, well, okay, because there's different aspects of Sony, okay? Because there's Sony Pictures Animation, which has produced some hot garbage over the years.
Some really good garbage.
Also some really good stuff. Though that's what amazes me about Sony is because they put out, the same studio that put out the Emoji Movie, put out Into the Spider-Verse, which was probably my favorite film of 2018. Anyway, Venom was just trash. But I'll start off, Josh. I'll start off by asking you, what was your least favorite part about the movie? Like, what was the part of the movie that made you go, not I guess not your least favorite part, but what part while you were watching it made you go, this movie is horrible?
Well, going into the movie, I feel like everyone had low expectations. Not only was it up in the air what kind of, if it was going to be rated R, or if it was going to be PG-13 or whatever,
right?
But also it was not getting good reviews and stuff like that. And ultimately, going into the movie, I was like, this is probably going to be garbage. So I already had that idea going into the movie, but I think I knew it was going to be trash when Tom Hardy as Eddie Brock started to introduce his character, because they introduce him as a journalist.
Yeah.
And being part of IMA and kind of seeing how journalism is done, he's not a journalist. He's far from it. He's a
Yeah.
man who shows up and goes, this is what's going on right here behind me.
Yeah.
And he's
His
a
interviewing
famed,
skills were not very on point.
Yeah,
I suppose we should mention real quick about the PG and R rating sort of thing. There was sort of, for several months of production, the movie was going to be rated R because of the success of movies like Deadpool and Logan and how great those R-rated superhero movies.
And it would be the perfect movie to do that because Venom...
Well, especially because it was going for the anti-hero story, which is exactly what Logan was, and especially what Deadpool was. Logan less so than Deadpool, but Deadpool, and both those movies did incredibly well. Logan was actually nominated for Oscars. Should have won, in my opinion. But
whoa, getting political.
But and so,
in my opinion.
But within a few weeks of the release, I think it was, they announced that it was going to be PG-13.
Yes.
And that instead of the original 2.5 hour runtime that they had announced or something like that, they had cut it down to 90 minutes, which is the bare minimum to be a feature film.
Yes.
And going into it with that, I knew, I was like, this is concerning.
Yeah. I want to address kind of the fan bit of it, or the after proceeding. We'll get into the deep of why I don't like this movie, but going into the movie, a lot of people had very low expectations, but after watching the film, fans were like, that was pretty good. I don't know why they said it was so bad. And it became a kind of, not a hit, but it did all right.
Better than it deserved to.
Exactly. And I just constantly, I follow a lot of those Marvel and whatever comic book pages on Instagram and other social media, and people were like, I can't believe this got a bad rep. It was a great movie. And I'm here to set the record straight. Venom sucked, and if you like it, not only are you wrong, but you need to open your eyes. Your third eye, not your two eyes. Just expand your mind for a second and pull out of this bad fantasy that you're living in, where Logan is a good movie. Not Logan.
Logan is a good movie.
Where Venom is a good movie.
Not a good movie. Logan is a good movie. Go watch Logan.
Correct.
Not paid advertisement, by the way. See, my thing with, and the other thing that came with the pre-production of the film was that, or I guess the production of the film was, I remember when they released the first teaser trailer, they had slated that this was when they were going to release the trailer, but they had just finished filming the day before they released the teaser trailer. And so they didn't have time to finish any CGI for the trailer. So they just released only clips of Eddie Brock, which is, there was no Venom in the trailer for the movie called Venom.
I don't think I've seen this trailer.
You haven't?
No,
it was the first trailer that was released for the movie, and it had no CGI whatsoever because they didn't have time to get any of that done yet. So it was just the raw footage pretty much that they put out in the trailer, and it was, I don't even know if it's still up, but it was not a good trailer at all because no one cared, because people joke about big CGI monsters fighting and yada yada, but when that's the focus of the movie, you have to include that. When that's the main
character.
Yeah. Which that was another red flag. That was early on, before, when it was still supposed to be R-rated and still supposed to be 2.5 hours. And I was cautiously excited for an R-rated Venom movie.
Yeah.
That was 2.5 hours long.
I think Venom is a cool character. I think he's a little overdone. But especially now that he is, he's had his own solo movie. Like, I don't know, there's been so many different versions or like portrayals of this Venom character, and
suppose,
I don't
yeah.
think any of them have gotten it right. Maybe probably some of the cartoons have, but yeah, Venom's definitely like him and Eddie like form this kind of like character, and I think those were the best parts of the actual film,
Yeah.
was seeing the play off both of them, but just everything outside of that sucked.
Yeah. And like I agree. I thought that Venom and Eddie, their relationship of like this voice inside Eddie's head, that was absolutely my favorite part of the film. I thought it was hilarious most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that I don't know, because there was the only other like big depiction, of Venom that we've seen is Spider-Man 3. And I remember that was one other thing when they first said they were going to be making this Venom movie. I knew that Spider-Man wasn't going to be in it. And I was already kind of confused as to how they would do a Venom story without Spider-Man. Because, like, sure, there's the anti-hero kind of angle and stuff, but really the core of Venom is that he craves Spider-Man, that because he's felt this power of being, because he's a symbiote, of being attached to something as powerful as Spider-Man, he wants to get back to that,
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, not doing that, I thought it was an interesting workaround for them. That was...
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like the movie could have gone a lot of different ways in that aspect, and they just settled for the most convenient and least interesting way.
Yeah.
He's an alien from space. He needs a host, and then
well, that is the core of Venom. Well, that is part of Venom, is that he's an alien from space, and that he's a symbiote. He needs a host, but typically, the only reason he goes to Eddie is because Spider-Man eventually rejects him.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I see what you mean.
But that was in the movie. They don't address any of that. They're just like he just moves. There's a few symbiotes. Is that how you pronounce
Symbiote.
it?
Symbiote.
Whatever.
Either one.
There's a few of them in the movie,
potato.
And like this is one of the things that I don't like about this movie. There's no logic behind the host thing with it. So it comes down at the beginning of the movie. It like latches onto some people, kills some people or whatever, and then it decides to take this old lady, and it walks into this like market, and then it takes another old lady, and like it eventually somehow gets over to like Eddie and stuff like that, and chooses Eddie, but the reason is kind of just
that
like
wasn't
him.
Venom though. That was the bad dude. Venom got into Eddie because Eddie went into the lab under investigating.
Wasn't that the one that gets into the lab or no?
No.
Oh.
No, that one takes over the scientist, remember?
Oh yeah, okay.
What's his face? I can't even remember what his name is.
When it
It's
crashes.
how forgettable of a character he is.
At the start when it crashes, one of them is lost.
Yeah, that's the bad villain.
That's the one that's moving.
Well, they're all supposed to be bad, but Venom decides, no, I like Eddie, so humanity can survive. It's so stupid.
Also, the host thing, they like basically go to a doctor and say, this thing is killing you. You need to get it off of you. And in the end, he just stays with it. Like there's a threat that they oppose to him, and then he's like, oh, maybe I should get rid of this, and then he just keeps it. Like, there's nothing
Well, and like the thing with it is well, and like just to go back to that for a minute, how you couldn't tell the difference between the two of them. It's
Yeah.
like all of the Venom creatures look the same. Like some of them are different colors and stuff, but all of the ones that aren't black, like jet black, are killed off
Yeah.
before like taking a host.
Mm-hmm.
And so like it's
in the
pretty much just Venom versus Venom by the end of the movie, and which to me is a ongoing trope of all superhero movies where the
true,
hero ends up
yes.
fighting a bastardized version of themselves at the end of the movie,
True.
which is like just lazy writing if you ask me, but that's also granted going off of characters from comic books.
Yeah.
But you could like change up his colors a little bit at least, whatever the bad guy's name was. But,
I mean, there are the bad guys, or the bad symbiote
yeah.
was named Riot.
Riot.
There are a bunch of them in the comics. Like,
Yeah.
of course, there's
and
the
I know
more
that,
famous one, Carnage.
which they set up for in the sequel played by
yes.
Woody Harrelson that no one is going to watch.
And
I
then,
hope.
And then there's a bunch of other ones. But
Yeah.
the thing is that like that was the thing is they only had like the Venom character or whatever. The symbiote was the only thing outside, like
Yeah.
there wasn't anything else other than
Yeah.
just it was a symbiote, you know?
Yeah. Well, and like the thing that's part of one of the plot points that bothered me was that because the whole thing is that the scientist is doing all these experiments on people trying to get the symbiote to find a host that it matches,
Mm-hmm.
right? And all of them keep don't make fun of me. And all of them keep killing their hosts because they're not a match.
Yeah.
But Riot spends the whole movie just going from person to person like that, seems to match with everybody. So like I don't get, is he like the O negative of like is because Venom is killing the person that he's inside before he latches onto Eddie.
Mm-hmm.
That homeless lady
Mm-hmm.
that Eddie was friends with, that he transfers from her to Eddie. And then when he latches onto Eddie, it's like, oh, finally a host. But like Riot has no problem with it whatsoever. He goes to the nurse lady in like the that's transporting one of the astronauts
Mm-hmm.
that Riot had taken over. He goes to like an old lady in like wherever it crashed down. He goes to well the first lady isn't that old, but then he goes to a really really old lady. Then he goes to another old lady, I think, and then he goes into a little girl, and then from the little girl he goes into the lab, and goes into the scientist, that's like the bad guy the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
And like, you know, he just has no problem finding. So like, can he tell beforehand if they're a match?
The
If
problem.
he can, why do all these other dudes keep? Why do they keep attaching themselves to people that aren't a match? Like it doesn't. That never made sense to me.
Yeah, the science behind them and hosting different creatures and whatnot
Because like I'm
didn't
fine
make
with that.
sense at all.
I'm fine with that concept of them needing like a match. That's not an uncommon thing for like a symbiosis sort of thing, but they're inconsistent with it.
Yeah, think about it like this. What if this is what they were thinking. They were like, what if, you know, it has to have the right host. They have a whole scene where they show off it coming out, attaching to one of them, and the guy starts dying,
Yeah.
right? They have a whole scene for that. And then, meanwhile, they have one that's constantly attaching to other things. And, like, it comes back and then just chooses one of the, like... It doesn't seem like there's any logic behind any of their choices.
Yeah. And I
Even with Eddie.
yeah. I don't get it. And like, you know, and it's because the other thing about Eddie is there's nothing special about him.
There's nothing special about him. He's also not a likable character.
He's not in the slightest. Actually,
No.
Yeah, no,
When
he's not.
the only thing that makes him likable
Is his
is when
banter with
when
Venom.
he is having like a mental breakdown and a
Oh,
physical breakdown
that's
with
right.
with this
Yeah.
alien that's attached to him. Like that's kind of funny.
Well, and it's not even that he's likable. It's just that the scene itself is funny.
Yeah, but like that's kind of likable. But
And I think,
the problem
frankly,
is,
I think if it wasn't Tom Hardy, he wouldn't be likable in the slightest. I think it would be.
true, Tom Hardy.
I think he gives the movie. He puts the movie up a few ticks from what it should be if he wasn't in it. Like if it was any other actor, I think it would.
See, here's the thing.
Yeah.
This is the thing I also disagree with a lot of fans and other people, that Tom Hardy's acting in that movie kind of sucked.
Oh, I definitely think there was bits of it that I like. There's this thing throughout the whole film where he has like a speech impediment,
Yes.
and we've talked about this before when you and I went and saw the movie way back when
Yes.
it came out. That was one of the first things I pointed out to you. I remember.
He sounds like a blathering baby. He's got sort of a lisp, but like he talks kind of like this, but like there's no point in it.
See, it's not really a lisp though. It's more of a speech impediment where he's like on his W's and like his R's and W's, like that kind of thing, where he's like where we what like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like and it seems to come and go, but it's pretty consistent throughout the film that he
Yeah.
has this, and I just don't see the reason for it.
No.
That like at no point, because I maybe I don't like, I'm not a huge comic book guy, so like maybe Eddie Brock had a speech impediment in the comics or something, but even so,
Even if
I
he
shouldn't
did,
have to read the comic
that's
to have
very
things explained to me.
stupid.
It just doesn't. It seems so out of place.
Yeah. Well, it's just like it's with any accent like acting or stuff like that, when you're, say, a British actor portraying like an English actor or American, I mean, or like vice versa, there's gonna be, the dialect has to be on point, sort of.
Yeah.
And also just a little bit of the mannerisms of people that they're acting as, and like it just seemed like he wasn't a New Yorker. Was it in New York?
No,
Wait, what?
yeah,
where
it was New York.
Yeah, I think so. 'Cause
Every
yeah.
big movie like that.
But
set
he
in
wasn't.
New York.
He wasn't a New Yorker. He was like a blubbering guy.
Yeah, and like I don't, because whenever something like that happens, there has to be a purpose to it.
Yeah.
Like like I'm not saying no character in any movie ever should have a speech impediment. I just mean like
Usually
it didn't fit with the rest of it.
like-
I didn't get it at all.
movies are so planned and so like so much time and money is put into it
Yeah.
that things like speech impediments are like usually defining a character or one of their traits,
Yeah.
and has something to do with a background story that might be interesting, or something that they're going to overcome, like the King's Speech or whatever. That movie is
Right,
all about that guy
yeah.
coming over this speech impediment that he has.
The stutter. Yeah.
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 But just to have it, and just to have it on and off, like it just didn't make
Yeah.
any sense,
Well,
and just took me away from the whole movie
Yeah.
in general. Like it brought me out of like this believable character of Eddie Brock, and instead was like, Tom Hardy's, why is he doing it?
Yeah, and I really like Tom Hardy. I don't think I've ever, other than Venom, I don't think I've ever seen anything that I didn't enjoy his
I
performance in.
am not familiar with him that well, but I can definitely say that it was
Like-
not a good performance.
Yeah, like he's in a lot of Christopher Nolan's movies and that kind of stuff, and he usually does quite a good job. But because I remember thinking for like the first hour, which it really is a really long time before Venom ever comes into play.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it is just Eddie Brock. Like, the good first half is just Eddie Brock's
so
life
much
sucks.
stuff.
And everything just keeps falling apart. And he's like, oh, my life. And then he becomes Venom.
They set up the alien. They set up the bad guy. They set up
Eddie
Brock's
it's
job.
so textbook.
Then they take it away from him. Then he's down in the dumps. And while they're still like showing all this other stuff, and then finally it attaches to him. And then there's some decent fighting. Okay.
I'm yawning just thinking about the movie. Yeah, like I felt for like the first, basically until Venom showed up, Tom Hardy really just felt like he was phoning it in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like just this is the line, and then moved on. I thought once Venom came into play, his performance became stronger.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like you said, that scene when he's in the restaurant with his ex-girlfriend and her new boyfriend, and he's like eating the raw lobsters and stuff.
Fun fact.
Yeah.
Originally, that wasn't written in the script that he jumps into the lobster tank.
He just did that?
He got there to the set that day and was like, I'm going to jump in that. Like, this is what this character would do. And was able to convince, like, the producers or whatever that he could get in there. And I just love that.
That's awesome, because that's, like, the best part of that scene, too.
Yeah. Is because not, like, originally he was just going to, like, pull one out of there and eat it. But then they were like...
No, it was so much better that he got in and he's like...
Yeah. He really... I've read a few things, and I can't entirely say that they're true, but there's a lot of stuff just about Tom Hardy's involvement with the movie that made him not happy with how it was going. Like, he apparently walked out a few times, like, just was like, I'm going, like, was angry and was like, I'm going back to, like, my dressing room until you
I'll
guys
be in
work
my
this
trailer.
out. Basically.
Yeah.
Because the script or whatever he was supposed to do was just like, he's like, this character deserves better or like needs better.
Yeah.
And you guys are trashes, basically.
Yeah.
I
honestly I feel that while I don't think it would have been a perfect movie, I think it would have been, I would have loved to have seen the R-rated cut. Because like it still would have a plethora of issues with the film. But I would be interested to see what that would have looked like, because you could just tell when they'd cut stuff out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like there's the huge action scene at the bottom of like his old job that he got fired from, where like all these SWAT officers are shooting at him and Venom like kills them all. And it's covered in just flashes of white and stuff to cover all the violence that was made for an R-rated movie before and was now PG-13.
Yeah, the whole thing with Venom is that he like eats people.
Exactly.
Like,
so like I don't know
how
whose
did
idea
they
it was.
PG-13 that? Like,
exactly. Well, and that's why I was excited when I found out it was going to be R-rated, because it's hard to tell a Venom story that's not R-rated. I mean, just look at Spider-Man 3. I say again. But there was that wasn't the only issue with that movie. But like, and for example, you see the end fight scene. The thing that the whole movie is building up to is like a minute 30 seconds. Like it's over in a flash. Like between Venom and Riot, it's super quick, and I imagine it would have been a lot longer. Granted, I don't know if I wanted it to be. It was just two CG blobs that were both black ink.
Yeah.
Smushing into each other, basically.
I also like how he says that line, have a nice life at the end.
Yeah. Well,
It's got all the things a terrible movie needs. Like cheesy one-liners.
Have a nice life.
That came from
I can
beforehand.
hear Arnold Schwarzenegger saying it in my ear. Like,
okay. So we talked about Tom Hardy his character, Eddie,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. I think it was cool that he voiced Venom.
I thought that was important to
Yeah.
the actual movie because it's almost like a Smeagol and Gollum sort of thing, where they both.
Are you gonna? Never mind.
I'm still in the shot.
Okay, I was just
I'm
gonna
watching
say
the camera, high camera.
because you're just like in the corner.
Okay, fine. I now my face is covered by the mic.
Just sit properly, dude.
No, listen here. Okay? So but it's kind of like a Smeagol and Gollum kind of situation,
Yeah.
where it's two sides of the same person.
Where it's good actor,
and this is really uncomfortable.
and it's Andy Serkis, and
except Andy Serkis did a way better job, and no one will ever top that because he's my hero. Andy, if you ever, Mr. Serkis, sorry, I didn't mean to disrespect you. If you ever want to be a guest on my podcast, I would love that.
please replace me.
Do you not want to be on this podcast?
So the other characters, right? The other characters
Tune in next time.
are really one-dimensional. Like not even two-dimensional. They don't even get that many dimensions. They're really one-dimensional. There's
his girlfriend
his girlfriend is
was
goes
the
from
best example I saw of that.
goes from like loving him to being in love with him, like literally in love. Like there's nothing that could separate them. They get along so good.
Yeah.
It's so great and perfect. Everything's lovely, basically. And then immediately is like, you lost me, my job or whatever.
Yeah.
I hate you. I don't even want closure. I'm just kicking you out. We're not together. Goodbye. See ya later.
Yeah. And like Eddie's just so stupid. Like I'm sorry. I don't mean to keep going back to Eddie, but like I remember the first like when in that first sequence of like this goes wrong for Eddie, this goes wrong, like he's fired, his girlfriend leaves him, he gets kicked out, yada yada yada.
Well,
and it's what?
he kind of brings it on himself.
Well, exactly. Because he
He
goes
looks-
against what she said, logs into her computer, and steals confidential emails that she is using because she's representing this company that he's doing a hit piece on.
Yeah.
Of like the bad guy. And he, first of all, I don't even know if that's legal. I don't care if she's your girlfriend. I like, eh. And he steals these confidential emails and uses them to write a story in an interview with the guy. And he's like, oh, what do you say about human testing? And the guy's like, get him out of here.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, the villain is the worst.
Oh my god.
He's trash. Like every line he delivers is like, wow, that was really cool. Did you guys just see that man die in front of all of us?
He tries to get angry at one point, and it doesn't really work.
I remember you said this as we were in the theater. You were like, it feels like a lot of these lines he should be yelling or at least getting angry. But instead he's just like, I can't believe that you would do that. You absolutely...
I need the testing to be done by 4:00 today. We're shipping them out.
It was exactly like that. Like he doesn't sound angry. He just sounds like in a rush.
He also doesn't look evil. He looks like a scientist would look like.
Yeah.
He doesn't look evil. Also, speaking of scientists, let's go to the one scientist character who also sucked. The lady who's like, we've been doing human testing for forever.
And just now I'm starting to feel upset
now
about
I'm
it.
like, we should stop doing that. What?
Yeah.
Like I didn't understand her at all. Here's what happens, right?
And actually, just one quick thing. Another thing that was obviously cut out was her death scene, because he just like sets loose the symbiote, and she's like, and then they close the door, and then it cuts back, and she's dead.
Nice.
I was like, there was definitely more there, but anyway, sorry, continue.
So here's what happens. She is a scientist for this one guy. This guy is using this symbiotes, doing research on them, using human experiments, human testing. I mean,
Yeah.
And the testing he's doing is just like people, low income people, homeless people. He's just
Yeah,
like,
which that's typically in these sort of movies. It's
yeah,
like only the most desperate people go for human testing.
exactly. He's just finding people, as many people as he can try. And this the scientist is all right with it. Everything's fine. And then that Eddie comes in. He's like, what are you doing human testing? And he's like, get out of this building or get away from me. And
Yeah.
then he's kicked out. He's shunned by his producer or whatever. He's fired. He's living alone, sad and lonely. And this girl's like, oh, I think I finally want to unveil the truth about what we've been doing. I'm gonna go find this journalist who has been fired and no longer does any journalism, anything to do with journalism now. And he's gonna save me.
Unemployed for 3 months.
He's gonna share this information with the world, and everything will be solved. And guess what? He lets him into this the lab, and she dies.
Well, and like the thing is, she just kind of sets him loose. Like, it's because it's like, oh, there's a guard coming. Get in this door. And then he's like, oh, okay. And then she's like, don't do anything.
Yeah,
and then she has a 30-minute conversation with a security guard that could easily, you could be like, oh, sorry, gosh, I'm in a hurry, and like keep moving on. But she and she just never sees him again after that, actually, because he from that point he gets Venom implanted in him, and then all the guards are like, what the heck, and like chase after him, and he gets out, runs home, and then he like keeps calling on the phone, but she doesn't answer because she dies the next day.
If she was trying to release this information that they've been doing human testing and stuff like that to get this to basically stop this company or whatever, one, she wouldn't actually get she would actually get a journalist, not a
not a
fired journalist who hasn't been doing journalism for a few years. Two, there is records for this sort of thing, even if it is illegal or whatever. They have like security cameras. They must at least.
Well, yeah.
Like use some security footage, find some records of test subjects and stuff like that.
I think they actually use some of that to show that Eddie stole the.
Eddie finds some of that, but she decides not to bring that directly to
the police,
directly to the journalist, directly to the police, directly to anyone.
Yeah.
She just says, "Come to the lab.
Let me show you what's going on. Let you get some pictures for yourself."
Lets him in
unsupervised.
Supervised. So like she wasn't like before when they were going there being like, "Hey, these things literally attach to people and kill them. Do not under any circumstances open
what's going on."
She never tells him that.
So he'd know, hey, I'm gonna stay away from these people because they're gonna turn me into a monster.
And immediately Eddie goes in there, sees this homeless girl that he recognizes, and tries to save her, and opens like the thing.
He eventually gets the door open, and she like. Yeah. It's
So like no one warned him. Also, I hate the whole. Like, I get it, it's a lab, but, like, just turn the lights on. Like, it's, like, dark, and there's, like, red lights, like, going around in circles. And, yeah, that's pretty, like, oh, we're in a lab. A real lab would just have the lights on or off. And
yeah.
Anyways, that character sucked. You know what else? Other character sucked? None. Because that was all three characters. All three extras.
Oh, no. You're forgetting one. You're forgetting his ex-girlfriend's new boyfriend.
Oh, the doctor.
That's his character, is just, I'm a doctor.
Yes.
Because, like, Eddie calls him, and he's like, yeah, I'm not feeling too good. And he's like, well, you might have high cholesterol or something like that. And then he's like, oh, thanks. I'll get that figured out. And like Eddie's talking to him, and he's like, no, shut up, Eddie. And he's like, oh, who are you talking to? And he's like, oh, I'm not talking to anybody, but he's talking to Venom, and it's hilarious. But it's like,
I personally like the Doctor, but just because he was the most real
that's
character.
true. But I just
in
mean
that
like,
whole thing.
other than that,
Like-
he didn't have much of a point to be there, other than, well, and like the other thing, there's no closure for him.
Oh no.
We just see the end of the movie, and
Does
she
he,
and him are like back
does he
together.
not
I think.
die?
No,
I can't remember.
he doesn't die. No, because no, because they get Venom out of Eddie using the MRI machine, and then they lock him in the room.
And then the MRI machine
And
goes
then-
to the dog, and then the dog goes to her.
The
and then
Venom
she-
goes to the dog, not the MRI machine. The
Yeah.
MRI machine. The MRI machine takes over the dog, and then the rest of the movie is following that.
Doesn't Venom shoot webs?
Well, because the reason the reason that Venom. This is part of where things get confusing, because the whole point of Venom is that he starts with Spider-Man, right?
Yeah.
And so he shoots webs because Spider-Man is like, and he gets like stronger webs because they're symbiotic now. And in the other depiction, like in Spider-Man 3, I remember he shot webs even after
Yeah.
afterwards. But
In like
I don't
the
know
video
if he would
game-
do that. I don't know if he would do that.
in a video
until-
game. He
unless-
shoots webs too.
Well, yeah, and he does in most of the stuff I've seen, but also in most of the stuff I've seen, he starts with Spider-Man. So my
Yeah.
thinking would be that it's because he attaches himself to Spider-Man first that he gains that. I think it's just not something that he thinks to do until then, you know? Because I'm sure that he could do it, which also goes off into Venom's design is entirely based around Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And so how does he
So
like...
the character Eddie Brock in Spider-Man wants kind of revenge, but also like hates like Peter Parker or Spider-Man, right?
Yeah.
So he's okay with this alien.
They're
attaching
co-worker
to him.
rivals,
They're-
and he's like, I'm going to kill him.
Yeah, exactly. But they're like, he's okay with this alien taking over him because he wants to kill him too, I guess now.
Yeah.
But anyways, in Venom the movie, he just like
He doesn't have any
Eddie-
abilities whatsoever.
Eddie
he
has
just
no
shoots like
choice.
streams of...
Well, Eddie has no choice,
Yeah.
and at first
Well, eventually
At
they
fir-
become...
at first he hates it, and then suddenly he's just like, we need to save the world, and then they save the world, and he's like, I guess I'll keep you around. Like, I just feel like in the end, wouldn't you be like, all right, we stopped the alien symbiotes from coming to our world to kill us. Let's destroy this one that's attached to me, and then they're all gone forever.
But
And
they're not, though. Carnage.
Well, that's revealed later, but yeah.
See, but he, like... Because towards the end, Venom and Eddie gain sort of like a... They become sort of a team, you know? Like, Eddie is in control in some ways. Because without... Because the way it is that without Eddie...
Because Venom's
Venom's
a loser.
Yeah. On my planet, I am kind of a loser, too. I liked that. That, like...
Did you actually like that?
I honestly, I thought... that made me laugh
It
genuinely.
made me
so.
laugh because it was so bad, though. Venom's whole thing is that he's evil, he's cool, he wants to eat people. They turned him into I just want to have a friend.
Oh, I think it's sort of a plague on all action movies nowadays that comedy has to be involved. It has to be an action comedy. It can't just be an action movie, or a horror movie. Or I heard a lot of people complaining about the new Halloween apparently is like littered with stupid jokes that don't need to be there,
Mm-hmm.
which
Well, I feel like it comes a point where like every main like Hollywood movie, it has to have like a romance. It has to
yeah.
have
But I mean, the romance thing has been around for
even longer. Yeah.
and like that isn't to me that's not as much of a plague as the comedy thing, 'cause I have seen and like they're both I suppose.
There's a lot of good movies, or there's a lot of movies that would just be better if,
Without a love interest.
well, the love interest,
Like they can still be a character, but that doesn't need to be a story.
yeah,
Yeah, I know what you mean.
yeah.
I
The one thing I loved about like Rogue One was that there's never any like actual
Yeah.
love in it, and then at the end, for some reason, they kiss when they're
Here's-
dying,
Okay.
and I was like,
Quick tangent.
that was the stupidest thing ever. I've
2
ever
second
seen.
tangent, okay? I love Rogue One. Rogue One is possibly my favorite Star Wars movie, and like it's right up there with Empire Strikes Back for me. Like I go back and forth between those two because I just love everything about it, because that's what I want. Rogue One is what I want the spin-off stories to be, where it's not really related to everything else. I mean, they're trying to destroy the Death Star plans, which
Well, it's how
But
it's how the Death Star plans got to Princess
yeah,
Leia.
but like
at the start.
honestly, it works as a standalone movie.
Yeah.
is my point. And which I think it should. And it's basically it's just a band of misfits in the Star Wars universe that have this story that's being told that just happens to be in the Star Wars universe. You know, it's like it's its own movie basically.
Mhm.
And there's bits like there's like the Darth Vader bit at the end that like without the rest of the movie you'd be like, no. But like, which by the way is an awesome scene. But
Yes.
to go back to your thing about the kiss at the end, that ticked me off as well because I thought,
It
because
didn't need it.
what's his name again?
I
The
don't
French
even
guy?
remember.
It's not Finn.
Pierre the pancake.
I can't remember what his name is for the life of me. I quite like his character. But he
Ratatouille.
dies because he dies before that, and they're like, and she's like no, because he falls down that big thing,
But then he's not.
and then
there.
she gets in like she's about to get shot by the general or whatever, and then he ex machinas and shoots him,
Yeah.
comes back up, and like I think he should have just died the first time he died. I don't think he should have come back. I think she could have.
I didn't mind him coming back. I feel like
I thought
the kiss was over.
the
doing
whole
it.
rest of that movie, everybody died where they should have. You know, like it was one of those things. I had a similar problem with Edge of Tomorrow, where like that Tom Cruise movie where it's like Groundhog Day, but it's an action movie where he keeps dying and then he starts the day over. And he's like,
I have not seen it.
it's quite a good movie. We'll have to watch it sometime. But I had the same problem with that because every time that, you know, when you're watching a movie and it's like that person should be dead because of what just happened to them. You know, like somebody will get like thrown into a wall or something,
Yeah.
like at a crazy velocity, and just they should have like exploded, but they're just a little bruised because it's a movie.
Mm-hmm.
I felt that throughout Rogue One, towards the end there, everybody died where like they'd get in a situation where they should be dead, and you could confidently be like, yeah, they're dead
Yeah.
because they're not going to come back. But then suddenly, what's his name? I can't believe I can't remember his name. Falls like
Pierre.
falls like a crazy height, and then he comes back alive.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so like that just bothered me with that. And like what I was saying about Edge of Tomorrow is it's like the whole movie, you know, it's just the stupidest stuff. Like one of the first times, because the whole point is that they're storming this beach.
Yeah.
It's like it's an invasion of Europe. They're trying to take it back, and he drops onto the beach, and gets about 3 feet in before he gets shot, and the day starts over. And it's like, that's hilarious for starters. Like he's got this huge build up, and he drops down, and he falls in the sand, and he gets back up, and he gets shot, and he wakes back up again. And so, and it was like throughout the whole movie, it would be like the slightest thing would happen where in a war zone you would die, and he dies. And then suddenly at the end of the movie, when he loses this power of like coming back every day, because what it was he like ingested the blood of some alien by accident. Like when it's this complicated thing, but he suddenly he's like being thrown all over the place and like should have at least like a broken spine, like all this different stuff, but he doesn't, because now the plot needs him to. I don't know. That was sort of, yeah, I agree. I loved Rogue One.
So I love the movie because it strayed away from that. All like hotter, all like movies have to have this romantic interest, you know, like all the character has to get with the girl in the end or whatever.
Yeah.
And it strayed away from that. So I was like, oh, this is great. And then they lost it right at the end. But like,
See,
yeah.
And like, and while that did bother me, I also felt that was passable, because it was an excuse. It was almost like a, like the last person on Earth. Like, I wouldn't date you even if you were the last person on Earth, sort of thing. It kind of felt like a, like, we're dying anyway, let's just kiss.
I know, but they've never shown any interest in each other. Anyways.
No, I know. It was
besides
sort of like,
the point, Venom is not a good movie, and I'll tell you why in three words.
3 words.
Ready?
Okay, let's hear the 3 words.
Acting,
Word 1, acting.
the story.
Word 2 is story.
The third is it was pretty black.
Word 3 is studio interference.
It was pretty dark.
2 words. Word 4 is studio interference.
It's pretty dark. As in, it was dark visually. Just
it
kidding.
was.
I don't know. That didn't matter.
But it does,
there were some
though.
passable things. Like, there were some funny things that he says with Venom, Eddie and Venom.
There were, yeah.
But there were also a lot of CGI fights that you can clearly saw they clipped out a bunch of the R-rated stuff that was going to be in there. There's these characters that just all suck and are all like all over the place. I love the Doctor, and here's why: because he's the most real character.
I do agree with that much.
Eddie comes to his ex-girlfriend and the new boyfriend, the Doctor. What?
So sorry. I just remembered one of my favorite things that the Doctor does. I forgot so much about him, but it's when they're it's after the symbiote comes out of Eddie, and he's like freaking out. He's like, I can't believe that thing was inside me and was killing me. It was awful. And then the Doctor's like, look, man, we gotta treat you. And he's like, no, I'm out of here. And he like storms out of the room. And then he's like talking with Eddie's ex-girlfriend, his girlfriend, and he's like, like this is really bad. Like, what is going on here? And she immediately is like, look, I promise there's nothing going on between me and him. And he's like, no, I don't give a crap about that. There's this alien being in my MRI room right now. Like, I loved that.
She was like so just all points and all turns was like an extreme or a very exaggeration of what she needed to actually be. So at the beginning, he's like, she's super in love with him.
Yeah.
And then she's super mad at him. And then she's like, oh, I don't like him, I swear. And then it's just like, it's just so not passable and so bad. And then as soon as this one, like the Doctor shows up, I'm like, he's the most real. He's the most. True. He's good because he's like a legit person, you know. So like when Eddie comes, when they show up at this restaurant, he's just like, dude, like, are you okay? Like, oh my goodness, are you all right? And just the entire time he's like freaking out. He's like,
Yeah.
I'm hungry, and she's like, he's like, we gotta like call an ambulance or something like right away. Like,
Yeah. Meanwhile,
he's
she's sort of just like, just calm
and
down,
she's
Eddie.
like, Eddie, I haven't seen
I'm
you in
so
forever. And what are
embarrassed.
you doing here? And he's like,
Well, yeah, she
we
doesn't
gotta,
treat it like he's in a crisis situation,
yeah.
which he clearly is. Like he's like, I think she says like, "Have you been drinking?" at one point or something like that, and it's like, no, no.
And then they take him to the MRI, and it like there's this alien and whatever. It reacts to the sound waves and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then he's like legit like, dude, like you need to rest. Like we need to
Yeah.
call in like people. And he's just like, I gotta get out of here. And she's like, I'm not in love with him, I swear. And he's just like, what do you
He's like, bigger problems, lady.
And then I don't
Bigger
even remember.
fish.
I didn't even remember if he survived or not.
He
Or
did.
if they were still together at the end. And
Well, that's
Stanley's like, go get him, Tiger. You got this. And he's like, thanks, random old man. I got it. And then Venom's like, who was that?
Who was that guy? Yeah. Can we eat him? Something like, yeah.
Have you seen the footage of the deleted scene where he freaks out at a car alarm? He goes,
No.
have you seen that? So there's, I believe already the DVD release is out for it.
Oh,
And in it
yeah,
were
it is.
some
I
special
saw,
features.
because I saw it at I saw it at Walmart a couple weeks ago, and I sent a video to our buddy Tanner, who saw the movie with us, and because it had the tagline "stunning visual effects," and I was like, yeah, stunning.
So there's a deleted scene where Eddie's just like walking. I don't know where they placed it, but he's just like walking down the street, and there's a car alarm happens, and he just gets, Venom reacts to it, of course, and he freaks out and he runs over the car, and there's just like a kid on the like steps of his like house or apartment or whatever,
Yeah.
just watching him. And then Venom freaks out and like breaks the car, and he goes like, "Raw," and then the kid's like, whoa. And I'm like, you could totally see why they cut this. This was garbage. Just like,
It's like
yeah.
it sounds like the scene from.
Why would you include this in the special features?
Sounds like the scene from The Incredibles when like Bob like smashes the car window or whatever, and the kid's like, "Whoa!"
It's kind of like that,
Oh,
but the kid doesn't say anything. Eddie and Venom don't say anything. There's just like bad special effects.
I have nothing.
What about
good
that
to
scene
say.
with the drones? When he's running away and there's drones attaching him, and the drones keep on like flying into like things and
Yeah,
breaking.
why did the drones? They're all kamikaze drones. What the heck was happening there? They're all crashing into stuff, like launching.
What were they
themselves into
gonna do?
things. Like, that was their goal.
Once they
weren't-
got to Eddie.
They're not
like,
shooting stuff. They're just crashing into things. That's their goal. Like I don't.
This movie's,
forgot
the
about
movie's garbage.
This is making me sad.
There was
thinking
nothing.
about
There's
this movie again.
nothing positive about it. Even in the end, with Woody Harrelson, he walks in there and it's like, he's got like the notepad and a pen, like he's a reporter, and I'm just like,
still
are you
a
still trying to
reporter.
pass that he's a reporter?
He gets
Like,
his job back at the end because he leaves the phone on the desk of his boss or whatever with
Yeah.
a note that's like, "Do the right thing. I know that you fired me over this, but here's real evidence now." And like just to go
Okay.
back to Eddie's stupidity just one more time.
yeah,
Okay, so when he steals all those files from his girlfriend, and like tries to make a whole piece about all this horrible stuff that the corporation is doing, the Life Corporation is doing, with these confidential letters that were sent to her as a lawyer representing them, he refuses to give his source, and so that's why they won't run the story. because they're like, we don't do pieces like. First of all, the Life Corporation could buy us 7 times over, and second of all, you're not giving me a source, so that means this is all fake. And he's like, first of all, a big part of journalism is protecting your sources, but at the same time, if he was willing to go to the length of stealing the file from his wife, or from his girlfriend, sorry, like, I guess that's different from
the fact
ruining her career by saying that she's a source, but like
the fact that she has those files though, that could basically like just kind of destroy them, is just another like key fact in how the lady nurse or whatever, the lady scientist, if she wanted to stop like this corporation,
she could just leak
there was
them.
way better ways.
Yeah.
Like they literally have like lawyers and stuff that have like all this information, and she could easily get it. She was like technically like second to.
Yeah.
She was kind of like, I don't know. Also, Life Corporation.
It's a stupid name.
It's a stupid name. It sounds like it's a name when you're having a crappy movie.
I was just thinking of Life magazine the whole time.
And you just need to like throw it in there.
Have you seen Secret Life of Walter Mitty?
No.
In the whole movie, Ben Stiller works for Life magazine, and so like that was the whole, because the whole thing, like, it's a metaphor of like he experiences life while working for Life. But like in this movie, it just felt really ham-fisted. Like, it's the Life Corporation,
and then that's where the line comes from. That's where the line comes from. Have a nice life.
Exactly. You get it? Have a nice life. We keep saying, have a nice life at the Life Corporation.
I also believe,
aren't we clever people?
That because originally that's like Oscorp.
Yeah.
But they couldn't use Oscorp, of course.
Nope.
They also couldn't say, and they couldn't say that
Spider-Man.
He worked at the Daily Bugle or whatever. He worked at the Daily. So instead,
I work at the Daily.
So instead, they went with Life Corp. Life Corp.
That was such a stupid idea.
Now, if you like this movie, inform me.
Tweet at this podcast. Where
inform us.
That's appearing on the screen. Tweet there and tell me why you like this movie, and I'll tell you why you're wrong.
And if you say, "Oh, Tom Hardy's acting wasn't that bad," please open your third eye. If you say, "Oh, it was a little funny though," please recognize that this movie was not intended to be a comedy. It was intended to be. Are you sure?
You don't write jokes in if you don't want people to laugh.
I feel like.
I don't think it was originally intended to be a comedy, but
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure when they first announced they were doing this and that it was going to be R-rated, 2.5 hours long Venom movie, I was expecting a horror.
Yeah.
Kind of thriller kind of aspect, because I thought that would work really well.
Exactly.
I have a friend of mine that has always said that because you know how there's been like 2 Hulk movies,
yes,
and they're both trash, and even in the Avengers and like up until Thor Ragnarok, nobody ever really cared about the Hulk because he was just this brooding, like, there's this monster inside me and I can't control it. And, they never wrote him very well. Anyway, a buddy of mine for the longest time has always had this idea that in order to make a good Hulk movie, it would have to be a horror movie. And like, you wouldn't tell the story from the perspective of the Hulk, but it would and it wouldn't even necessarily be a Hulk movie, but it would be more Kind of like a disaster
King
movie
Kong,
kind of thing.
dude.
Yeah, like that kind of idea where like you follow like a family or something that's like
Well, I think
affected by this devastation.
well, that's more Godzilla, but
Yeah.
I feel like the King Kong way would be perfect, and they tried to do it,
Mhm.
but basically like the this the monster falls in love like with the lady or whatever.
Yeah, it was
But in like the other
Beauty and
movies,
the Beast.
in the other movies, she like already likes Bruce, and then Bruce turns into a monster, and Bruce is like, I can't face her, sort of thing. And then she's like, we gotta fix him. Who's Bruce? Banner?
Oh, sorry. I thought we were talking about Venom still. Sorry, we're talking about the Hulk. I think it was written to be a comedy. I don't think it should have been though. While I thought some of the comedy worked and made me laugh, I think it would have been better if it wasn't there. To be frank.
It's hard to mix that kind of, well, like if it was R, it's hard to mix like that level of like humor, but also like
Keep it serious and intense.
Exactly. And them pulling it to PG-13, they lost that edge or the seriousness, but they still tried to present themselves as kind of serious.
Yeah.
And it did not work out. And yeah. Also, can we talk about the music for a second?
Yeah.
Do you remember
the stock music?
Do you remember any music from this movie?
No, I don't, because it sounded like stock music.
Exactly. The only music I remembered was Venom, the song
By
Eminem.
Which, by the way, is like 8 years too late.
He's past his prime.
Yeah.
Let's just face it. Like, I love the dude, but he's a little past his prime.
Do you?
Do I like Eminem?
Yeah.
They taste good.
The thing with like when it was going to be R-rated and having that comedy in there was, I feel like for those kinds of things, in order for it to be good, it either has to be all comedic with just a little bit of story to keep it going, or it has to be all serious. And so like for example, two sides of the R-rated movie craze, R-rated superhero movie, anti-hero or whatever, Logan and Deadpool 2. Well, Deadpool, sorry. I don't know why I'm thinking Deadpool 2. But
Either one of
Deadpool,
them.
well, both of them, they're the same. But Deadpool is just goofs and gaffs the whole time. They're just, it's doesn't take itself seriously at all. But it's rated R because of the content of the jokes and the things that happen within. Whereas Logan is rated R, and these are both very successful movies, but it is serious the whole time. There's not a joke cracked. You know, there's like, like you might laugh at Logan yelling at the little Mexican girl to speak English.
You might laugh when what's his name? Professor X is on the ground.
Okay, but
having
anyway.
a seizure, and the whole world is like frozen, and Logan's slowly walking, and then he like stabs some guys while he's walking. Dude, what a cool movie!
It was such a good
That movie is so good.
I'm gonna watch that movie again this weekend. I've seen that movie countless times. It's
That
my
movie is
second
so good.
favorite movie of all time.
Can we talk about good R-rated superhero movies?
We will actually. We're kind of moving into that already. But I think that
Lego Batman.
Yeah, that R-rated superhero movie.
It's rated R for
but
Rego.
but just to make my point, it has to be either super serious or super just funny, and I think when you try and mix those two, because Venom, a big part of Venom just felt like it was taking itself too seriously.
Yeah.
If whereas Logan, you never feel that because it is it is intense and
He's
like
old man
it
Logan, dude.
brings emotions to you because Hugh Jackman is incredible.
Hugh
And
Jackman.
like the writing is really
it's in
good.
Avengers Endgame. Spoilers.
But yeah, because Logan was really good. Deadpool, they were both very successful movies. Whereas Venom is trying to dip into both pools, and it's not.
True.
And it's not.
But it wasn't even rated R.
No, it wasn't.
It was rated.
But it was like it was initially planned to be.
PG bad teen. Because it's a bad movie.
I wonder how close to the release that decision
That's
was
a
actually
joke
made.
that they should have thrown in Venom.
What?
I don't know.
Because they because they didn't announce it until a couple weeks after the movie or before the movie was coming out. And so I wonder if that decision was made then and they had to edit it down, or if it was made much further beforehand and they just decided, like, we'll just keep building hype without ever telling anybody until we eventually, because I don't think it was even an announcement they made. I think it was just released in theaters and people were like, why is this PG-13? And they were like, oh yeah, by the way, it's not R anymore, you know? Because I know for a fact that in the shooting, by the time they had finished shooting, it was still supposed to be rated R.
Bang, bang. Yes.
Filming.
So, everything about the movie sucked. Even Venom. I have a new distaste for Venom.
You know how if a Green Lantern movie comes out anytime soon, you're going to be like,
it needs to be
cautious
done
of it?
by Ryan Reynolds.
Ryan Reynolds.
Ronald Reynolds.
But like, you know how whenever
Ronald
if one
McDonald's.
comes out, you're going to be immediately cautious of it because you've seen or at least heard of the other one.
What about Fantastic
That's
Four,
how I'm going to be
dude?
with Venom. I'm the same way with Fantastic
Dude,
Four.
okay.
I don't mind the original Fantastic Four, but the remake,
Listen to me here, boys. I like superhero movies, all right?
I do too.
Does that mean I'm a degenerate? Does that mean I my critique on movies doesn't matter that much? No. But you know what does matter? We getting some good movies, all right?
Yeah.
Good comic book movies. And there's a lot of characters out there that are really good that haven't been explored yet. And then there's a lot of good characters out there that have been explored but have been done wrong. And I would love to see be taken in by someone who actually cares for it like a child and I makes a good piece. Like Venom, if it was taken care of well, like if it had more license than it did to use like some whatever, or if it was R and it was purely just an anti-villain, like horror movie kind of thing.
But
Whatever. If it was purely that, then that would have been good. And like, there's some other characters that are like Fantastic Four. I love Fantastic Four, but the movie representations of them have not been as good as they could be.
Yeah, I agree.
That's the thing. Like with Guardians of the Galaxy were like
Unheard of,
basically, and they weren't that interesting. They were pretty
Guardians
obscure.
of the Galaxy, Ant-Man.
Well, I knew about Ant-Man. Ant-Man was,
but only as
Ant-Man,
like the butt of a joke.
Well, Ant-Man was one of the Avengers. Him and Wasp. Wasp was one of them, and they haven't thrown in Wasp until the Ant-Man and Wasp movie, and then they still haven't.
Which was trash.
They still haven't met the Wasp hasn't met the Avengers yet, so she probably won't because they're spoilers. They're all dead. Anyways, but yeah, like so, like there's been some characters that have been good, and they just don't do them justice. And I'm
Which-
not gonna say.
And like it's one of those things where because I myself I really like these movies, but to me it's more important to make a good movie than it is to make a good comic book movie. And
Yeah.
like I know that sounds weird, and like because I don't even really like the term comic book movie. I just would prefer
Superhero
just
movie.
movies.
Oh.
Because you know like there's so many and part of it is the fan base will get
Yeah.
really a lot of people will get really choked if you change something like in Iron Man 3 the Mandarin finds out you find out towards the end that he's not the real Mandarin, that it's really been this other guy this whole time, and like a lot of people were upset about that because like, oh, that's not the real Mandarin, but that's honestly as a film that's a really good twist,
Yeah.
you know. And so to me it's more important to have a good movie than to stay true to the source material, especially as someone who hasn't read the source material. Like I couldn't care less.
That being said, they did try to fix that Mandarin thing, and they had like a short with the same actor.
Where was that again?
When was it, or where was it?
Oh,
It was-
sorry, that was just in the extras or something.
No, it was like I think it was
End of-
released around Thor: Dark World.
It was like it was an end credits of something.
It was not the end credits.
It definitely was.
No,
Yes,
I know the end credits of Iron Man 3. It's
It wasn't.
him,
It wasn't of
it's
Iron
him
Man
talking.
3.
It's him talking to Bruce Banner.
No, it wasn't the end credits of Iron Man 3. It was
It's
something
not the
else.
end credits of Dark World. Dark World is a different thing.
I thought it was the end credits of Winter Soldier.
No. End of Winter Soldier is him not being
One of them
frozen.
is Bucky finding him in the museum, like the exhibit on himself.
Oh yeah, that's the end of Winter Soldier.
But there's two at the end of every one.
No, it was never. It was a longer piece. It was like a minute or like 2 minutes long or something like that. It's like 2 minutes long,
Yeah, no.
and it was him being like, "You really think the Mandarin doesn't exist? I was just using his name. He's out there."
Yeah, I know. A friend sent it to me like last year.
I was
I
like,
think. I still actually haven't seen Iron
I was
Man
like, it's
3.
cool that they're trying to make amends, but like, it's also like, pardon my French, it's like pussyfooting, you know?
I think it was better the way they did it to begin with. But I don't know. Josh,
I'm hungry.
what are your final thoughts on Venom? We can go and tell me your final thoughts, and we can go eat. And you can come with us.
No, you can't. We're turning you off.
Okay, sorry, you can't come with us.
I believe that Venom was not a good movie. Do I think it's the worst movie I've ever seen? No, but I think there's a lot of things that are terrible with it, and it got so much love, even though like the critics tore it apart, but everyone else seemed to enjoy it. There are a lot of story plots that just don't make sense. Not good characters, not good acting, a lot of laziness, and a lot of potential that was taken out of it, which could have made it a really good movie. And for that, I think Venom's a poopy movie.
I agree. To me, the worst movies aren't the ones that, like The Room, or like these tiny little independent ones that are made by people that don't know how to make movies and just come out bad. But they're the ones that are made by these huge production companies like Sony, and that have every reason to be a good movie. You know, they've got everything going from they've got a good actor, you know, Tom Hardy. They've got like people that are competent, or well, they're incompetent because they made Venom.
Well,
But like I mean they're the movies that still have the funding behind them to be good, but aren't.
the enjoyment that you get out of the small movies is from them being like so bad that they're funny, right?
Yeah, it's the
Venom
ones that are
was
just
a bad
boring.
movie.
Yeah,
Venom was just a bad movie. It wasn't bad that it's funny. It has some funny clips in it, like or some funny scenes in it or whatever. I won't lie, but overall, it doesn't excuse the fact that it's pretty garbage.
it was.
Very.
Yeah,
It's like hot fire, hot garbage.
overall, if I had to sum it up in one word,
That's all I have to say.
disappointing. And I wasn't expecting anything either, which was
That was the problem. People had so low expectations that when they
And-
got into the theater, they were like, "This is actually pretty good."
yeah.
Like if everyone said that this was the best movie that you've ever seen, that you have to go watch
Everyone
this
would
movie,
hate it.
everyone would hate it. They were like, "This didn't make any sense. This was garbage."
Yeah,
But it's like so many years of just like those superhero movies of like they just like eat that crap up, even though there's
Mhm.
you got to look back at it and say like, hey, was that necessary?
Yeah.
You know, half of the stuff in Venom wasn't necessary.
I completely agree. I think, Josh, as our last
That's my
thing,
name.
as our last thing to finish it off, give me your rating out of 10 of Venom.
9. It's a great movie. Go and see it. It's on DVD right now.
Thanks for watching.